Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert's Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. NXT, the Great American Bash. I like the fact they're bringing these old names back. Like, the next one will be in September 30th, will be No Mercy. This is Great American Bash. And they're reliving some of those names from the 90s and early 2000s. NXT TakeOver was kind of the black and gold brand. This brand of NXT TakeOver, I don't think fits. The talent's definitely not as good as that talent was, but it's some really good talent. Though we had a really solid card, top to bottom. Some surprise matches. We had a debut. We had some trash. Yeah, that all happened last night on Peacock. NXT Great American Bash. All right, the pre-show match, not a kickoff match. First one they've had in a while. We had an 8-man mixed tag match. I'm like, ugh. But actually, this was super good. If you didn't watch it, because I know a lot of people don't like watching the kickoff stuff, go back and watch this. It's really good. It was Dragon Lee, Nathan Frazer, Valentina, Feroz, Yulisa, Leon, going up against Metaphor, which is Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, Noam, and Oral Mensah. Metaphor have been kind of this. It was kind of like thrown together, but it kind of makes sense to a point. Noam had won was the Heritage Cup champion, NXT Heritage Cup champion. He ended up getting hurt, wasn't able to defend the title. Had Ora Mensah defend the title for him. Ora Mensah lost the title to Nathan Frazer. Well, Noam was this kind of zombie kind of character in a wheelchair, was just lost without his baby. They created a replica version of it to give to him, which perked him up. He's been able to wrestle since then. Well, Nathan Frazer is the actual Heritage Cup champion, but Noam has a replica that he walks around with that makes him happy. So they put these two teams together. Dragon Lee's kind of been feuding with Nathan Frazer a little bit, and with Noam. So it kind of is like a thrown together team against this faction Metaphor. Overall, great pre-show match. Nathan Frazer, Dragon Lee. I mean, everybody kind of did their own little pieces. It was the mixed tag version, so if a woman was winning, it was women versus women, men versus men. As an avid GCW fan, as an avid independent wrestling fan in the independent wrestling world, you had men versus women, which is fine to me, but I understand WWE doesn't do that. But yet they let Rhea Ripley get involved and do stuff, and nobody can do anything back to her because she's Rhea. We'll get into that. But 3 1/4 star, Dragon Lee, Nathan Frazer, Valentina, Feroz, Yulisa, Leon getting the victory. 10 minutes, 51 seconds, 3 1/4 star. Again, one of the best kickoff matches WWE's had in a while. Then we get to the main card. First match, NXT Tag Team titles on the line. Champions, Gallus, Mark Coffey, Wolfgang, with Joe Coffey, going up against the family, chanting Lorenzo and the Don of NXT, Tony D'Angelo, Stacks Lorenzo. This has been a really interesting feud, interesting storyline here. About 3 months ago, Tony D'Angelo was arrested. He's been behind bars. Stacks went and visited him and still running the family for him. Joe Coffey goes and visited him, tells him that the reason Tony's in jail was because of Stacks, when it was actually Stacks telling Gallus stuff that wasn't true to try to get Gallus to do what they did, basically. And there was a match that if Stacks won against, I think it was against Joe Coffey, charges would be dropped. If Joe Coffey won, Tony D'Angelo would go to prison. You kind of knew where this was headed. You knew this was kind of the climax of it here. So we had the NXT tag titles on the line because Stacks won that match. So now Gallus has to put the titles up against the family. Pretty good match actually here. Tony D'Angelo Gallus has been known to skirt the rules a little bit, do stuff behind the referee, which Joe Coffey would distract the referee. Wolfgang would go to hit Tony with the belt. He would duck out of it. They actually got Stacks at one point. And then you had Stacks, you had Tony D'Angelo get a crowbar. And beside the ring, Stacks distracted the referee. He was able to hit Wolfgang with the crowbar and was able to get the 1, 2, 3. So off of that little cheating mechanism there, you ended up with the family, the new NXT Tag Team Champions. And then giving it 3.5. I've kind of enjoyed the story overall, and the fact that they had to cheat to win. I actually don't think the story's done. I think this will end up probably like in a steel cage match or something like that, which we kind of need, or even a ladder match or something. But yeah, so the family, chaining Stacks, Lorenzo, and Tony D'Angelo, the Dawn of NXT, your new tag team champions. Next up, we had a Weapons Wild match, Roxanne Perez and Blair Davenport. Roxanne Perez has been she was former women's champion. She had some issues that she had to resolve. She ended up relinquishing the title. Before they could crown her champion, she got back in the title hunt, eventually lost the title to Tiffany Stratton. And she's been just hounded by Blair Davenport, by Gigi Dolan and all them, because Roxanne Perez's character is basically what the original Bayley was, kind of this happy-go-lucky, just I'm glad to be here kind of character. She actually trained with Reality of Wrestling for Booker T. I actually knew her as Roxy there. I've actually watched Reality of Wrestling long enough to remember her. And so she's kind of in Booker T's Prodigy project. She comes out, her family's at ringside, so you kind of had a feeling she's going to win because her mom was at ringside, her sister. And so Blair Davenport comes through the crowd, ends up attacking her right away, pulls a belt or some sort out of underneath the ring. Blair Davenport ties it to Roxanne's wrist and just slams her into the barricade like right across from her family was sitting. Does it like twice. Well, later on in the match, Roxanne Perez did the exact same move to Blair Davenport. You had chairs and trash cans, and so it was like, yes, there was weapons, but it wasn't like, again, I watch a lot of independent wrestling. I watch a lot of deathmatch wrestling, so when you say, weapons, wild match, it's like, oh boy, did we get a pizza cutter? It's like, okay, we got to tone this down to WWE terms of weapons, so trash cans and chairs. But it was actually a really good match. These two went out there, because you don't look at Roxanne Perez being in a match like this. You look at Blair Davenport, kind of bigger in stature, that I know her from independent wrestling, from Progress and from Red Pro, as Bree Priestley. She's actually had a match during COVID versus her then boyfriend, Will Ospreay. It's like a 4-star match. So I know she's got talent. But going another, you don't think of Roxanne Perez using weapons. She did. She was actually ended up putting Blair Davenport through a table and getting the victory. 3.5-star match on that one, almost 12 minutes. One of the better women's matches of the year so far. Next up, we had the in-ring debut of Gable Steveson going up against Baron Corbin, the Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson, who 3-time college champion or something, two-time Olympic champion, kind of the modern-day Kurt Angle, going up against the guy who actually retired Kurt Angle, Angel's last WrestleMania match. You're like, okay, this is kind of going to be there. Baron Corbin did debut a new song, kind of a new attitude, which when the video package hit for the Titantron or the board, I thought it was of some type of Caribbean movie, kind of pirate movie, Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought it was that at first, because it's some like pirate ship that was on fire. I'm like, what the hell? This match, it lasted 6.5 minutes. It ended in a double count out. You had both Gable Steveson and Baron Corbin fighting by the announce table. Ended up getting double count out. Ended up giving it 2.25 star. There was a this is bullshit chant going on. It was trash. I mean, you don't have somebody like this suplex machine technical expert, modern day Kurt Angle, Gable Steveson, have a match like this. It's just this first match. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? I'd rather seen Gable Steveson versus Chad Gable and let him go. and that been his debut and beat Chad Gable. That'd been awesome. But no, we go against Blair and Corbin, and this is my match with just pure trash. 2.25 star, double count out. No one wins, including the fans. Next up, we had the NXT North American title line in a triple threat match. We had champion Dominik Mysterio versus Mustafa Ali versus Wesley. Dom gets so damn much heat. The last time I can remember this much heat against somebody when they go to talk was Vicky Guerrero. Dominik Mysterio, the son of Rey Mysterio, the godson of Eddie Guerrero. Actually, I think, we had that ladder match for custody of Dominik back in the day, and Rey won. Eddie should have won. I actually think Dominik looks more like Rey than he does, or more like Eddie than he does Rey. Just my opinion. Him and his two daddies. But overall, Wesley, Mustafa Ali, they basically try to fight among themselves more than to fight Dominik Mysterio. There's a couple spots where Wesley would go to hit Mustafa, he would duck, they would chop Mysterio. Mustafa would hit Wesley, he would duck in, Ali would hit Mysterio. Rhea Ripley kept getting involved. She kept pulling them out and pulling the guys out. She ended up putting Wesley through the announce table. I'm all for people like her being out there, but my issue with this, and maybe my own issue, maybe a minority here, is you have a woman putting a man through a table. You have women out there hitting men and doing that, but yet they're not allowed to hit her back or do anything back to her. If they were allowed to do something back to her, okay, it'd be kind of that man versus woman kind of thing, and she's, hella wrestling on her own right, but it would be like, okay, this kind of makes sense. But it's like, she's able to do pretty much whatever she wants, and you can't do anything back to her. I know it's always been like that, but it's just she's a woman's champion. Back when Stable was out there with Johnny B. Bad, I just aged myself. Or Mark Marrow, it was different. She just distracted. She didn't do a lot of physical stuff. But Rhea ended up hitting, I think, Mustafa Ali with the women's title. Dominik Mysterio getting the 1, 2, 3. Still your North American champion. Now backstage, they showed a little piece with Nathan Frazer and Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee walks away, runs into Rhea Ripley and Dominik Mysterio, and Rhea calls him a wannabe Rey Mysterio or something along that lines. And Dragon Lee was like, yeah, I was actually a fan of Rey Mysterio, and you're not anywhere close to what your dad is. So I'm looking if they're going to do something with those two, which would be kind of neat, especially if Rey came out. But we'll see where that goes. But for now, your NXT North American champion is still Dominik Mysterio. I give that match 3.5. And then our sub-main was our NXT Women's match and submission match. We had Thea Hale, part of Andre Chase University. She's this young, naive, 19-year-old kid, basically. And she's been learning at, Chase University. Of course, Andre Chase was out, so Duke Hudson was teaching the classes, and got her kind of this fired up, kind of like almost like a little chihuahua going after people. Tiffany Stratton won the title. At one point, Charlie Dempsey and Drew Gulak was teaching at Chase University, and they taught Thea some submission stuff. Charlie Dempsey did, and so she thinks she's a submission wrestler now. Well, she won a battle royal to become number 1 contender. Well, Tiffany Stratton came out, and Thea put her in some armbar submission hold, and of course, it was not during the match, so she's like tapping the ref and pulling them apart. She's like, I didn't tap. Well, your hand went like that. You tapped. I made you tap. That's kind of been the back and forth build of this. Tiffany Stratton, not typically a submission wrestler. Thea Hale, learning to be a submission wrestler. They actually had a pretty decent match. I know Tiffany Stratton, I would compare her to a young, green Charlotte Rhea Ripley type. A little bit taller than like Sasha or Bayley or Becky, but has the raw ability to do things. She does a I don't know, the backwards flip thing. I don't know, Matt. Some of these, like a shooting star kind of move. So she's able to do some of this stuff off the top rope and, you know, with some power behind it. But she's really green, so some of the moves aren't as crisp as they need to be. But yeah, this match was actually pretty good. Tiffany ended up getting Thea in a submission hold. Looked like a Boston crab, and then it was like a single crab. Thea had Tiffany in that, and Tiffany grabbed the rope. They're saying it's not, you know, it's a submission match, so there's no rope breaks, but yet when Tiffany grabbed the rope, Thea let go. It's like, huh? It was a little confusing there, and then Tiffany Stratton ended up getting out of the ring, come back in the ring, ended up getting the Boston Crab on Thea Hale. Thea's reaching for the ropes. Why there's no rope breaks, but there is, but there's not, kind of deal. She ended up pulling her back to the middle of the ring, did like a single Boston Crab on her. Andre and Thea's not tapping, and Thea looks like she's about to pass out, and Andre Chase threw the towel in. So they called the match. So the winner by submission was Tiffany Stratton. Ended up giving it 2 3/4 star, but I kind of like the way they ended that. It wasn't like, you know, kind of like done with Stone Cold and Bret Hart, where Stone Cold just passed out kind of deal. It was somebody threw the towel in for her. So now you're going to have that. Well, I didn't give up. You threw the towel in for me. How dare you? I want a rematch because I didn't give up. So I think this is going to carry on to No Mercy, which would be kind of neat. Now you've done a regular match, you've done a submission match. Do you do like a weapon match now? Do you put another type of gimmick on it? Ladder match, cage match, or something like that? I think, because I think going from a regular to submission, you're gonna take it to the next level. And so I don't know if Thea wins it, or you just have a straight 3-match streak by Tiffany Stratton, which will kind of build Tiffany Stratton up a little bit. But right now, there's really not a lot of women in NXT that's ready to take the next level to be champion. So I think Tiffany's going to have a pretty good long run here, which I'd be down with, because she's getting better each match she's in. And then we had our main event champion, Carmelo Hayes, along with Tripp Williams, going up against Ilja Dragunov for the NXT Championship. There's not a lot of guys to the level of Carmelo Hayes and Ilja Dragunov in NXT right now. Ilja Dragunov, in my opinion, is ready to go to the main roster. So is Carmelo Hayes, but I don't think you have enough people to take over where they're at in NXT for that to happen quite yet. Both these guys are talented. Both these guys are just hard hitters. You got Carmelo on the mic. I would say he's best in NXT, definitely. Ilja Dragunov, some of the biggest strikes in the business. This match was just back and forth. I'm going to chop you, I'm going to strike you, and Carmelo Hayes, more or less, I'm going to finesse you. 24 minutes of just, I don't think gold, but pretty damn much. I ended up giving it 4-star. NXT champion retained by Carmelo Hayes and Tripp Williams, his sidekick. So we end the match with a 4-star match with a couple, 3.5-star matches. So overall, one of the better NXT shows of recent memory. I'll definitely go back and look at some of the past ones, but I like what NXT's at right now. You building stuff up. You have these 2-month shows, kind of like TakeOver was. You're kind of doing a new version of what NXT was with Black and Gold under Tripp. I know that NXT 2.0 crap, garbage, bullshit. But NXT, if you go back on Peacock and watch some of the original NXT, I don't think we're quite to that level yet, but we're on the upward swing toward that. But yeah, overall great show, NXT Great American Bash review. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show. Don't just have a great day, have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show is your YouTube leader in sports channel content.